Most exciting, and someone mentioned books, change management books. We've actually got two authors speaking today. So very exciting for Lena is that she is actually just written her first book, which is Hacking for Agile Change. And we probably will touch on that a little bit later in the panel. But I would like you to put your hands together and welcome her.
Thank you. Wow, thank you for that introduction, Sinead. It's fantastic to see so many of you here to explore, as a group, the future of change management. And just before I move forward and talking about digital, we have a little hashtag for the event today. So those of you that love social and would like to back channel, our hashtag is Change Thinktank. So just make a note of that. When I talk about the future of change management, it's totally linked to the future of work. Sinead alluded to the new ways of working. And when we think about the future of work, I'm reminded of questions that I'm always asked or often asked by clients and workshop clients and people that I coach. And those questions go like this. They go, what do you think the future looks like for change practitioners? And how can I thrive and shine in that future as a change practitioner? And I say to them, one of the first things I say is, let's work with the notion that the future is now. Because if we talk about the future as a place, a far-off place, we may not operate with that sense of urgency, and we may not move forward with that sense of purpose that we really need to do as change practitioners. Now let's have a look. I'm going to talk about 3 drivers that are taking place in the external environment that will influence what we need to do as change practitioners and strongly influence what we need to be. And they are, thanks to Sinead's great intro, the new ways of working, so the future of work, the nature of the work we actually do, so what's happening in our industry as knowledge workers, and then what I call the capability paradox. So I'll spend a little bit of time walking through each of those, and then I'm going to leave you with 3 key takeaways that link to this. So everything's happening in 3s, right, through my presentation. Okay, so let's have a look at the new ways of working. How many of you have seen this TED talk called What New Power Looks Like by Jeremy Hyman? Have any of you seen that talk? Okay, it's a great talk, and this is the key takeaway from his talk, and it talks about where new power is in the future of work, or the now, because this is happening now. Power is being disrupted, and power is being redistributed. So the old command and control culture is slowly fading. It's giving way to a culture of collaboration and shared knowledge. And the factors that are contributing to that, of course, are digital disruption, millennials in the workplace, and all those external drivers that are influencing the way we work. So when we have the concept of new power, we need to ask the question, what is the question for change practitioners? What do we need to do differently in this place of new power? So it may be things, and this is the thought-provoking stuff for you as you go into your group sessions, right? It could be things like, are our engagement models right in this place of new power, where different people have influence, because influence is now distributed? Are our comms plans right? When we do conventional change management, our comms plans are very much top-down and a cascade approach. And now that we have social channels like Yammer and different ways that power and communication is distributed, that also forces us to ask ourselves, do we need to change the way that we're doing engagement and comms? And they're just a couple of examples of how we need to rethink what we're doing in change in this new world, the world of new power, which is now. Okay, the nature of our own work. The statistics globally tell us that for the nature of our own work, 50 to 60% or more knowledge workers are transient or contract workers. Now that's us, we're knowledge workers, okay? So I'm going to put this to the test. I'm going to ask everyone in this room to stand up. So we're going to do our own market research on this. And I'm going to ask you to remain standing if you are not employed as a permanent employee in an organisation. So that means the only people sitting down are the ones who are employed as perms. Okay, so do you reckon we got about 50%? Still standing? Okay, so that kind of hangs, doesn't it? Okay, you can sit down now, thank you. Just a bit of morning energiser. Futurists are saying that for knowledge workers, this number's only going to increase. So again, what does this mean for us? That we're going to be more in the knowledge space, and we're also going to be more likely to be contracting or be contingent workers in the future. The key thing it really means is that we need to own our capability. Okay, once upon a time, we could abdicate our professional development to our employer. You would go to work, you would typically be a permanent employee, and your employer would tell you, oh, you're going to training in a couple of weeks on this topic. And you really didn't have to think very hard about your professional development. And we stayed in jobs longer and stuff like that. And now that we're moving around and we don't have that luxury of the employer looking after our professional development, we need to take control. We need to be in the driver's seat. Because especially as contract knowledge workers and even as permanent knowledge workers, we need to think about how do we show up when we go to work and what's making us stand out. And what is the imprint you want to leave as well? So how do you want to shine in that environment, and what are you doing to drive your own capability? Now, that the fact that you're here today is great because that's an indicator that you're committed to driving your own capability and owning that. And then we've got the third piece, which is what I call the capability paradox. And the reason I call this a paradox is there's a lot of talk at the moment about AI, artificial intelligence. There's a lot of talk about the Internet of Things, as Sinead mentioned. And some of you may have heard, who's heard of STEM and the STEM capabilities? Okay, so the Australian government is talking about how the country needs for the workforce capability these STEM capabilities, which stands for science, technology, engineering and maths. So while there's a strong focus on these technical capabilities and the fact that artificial intelligence is relieving us of the tyranny of doing a lot of things, we mustn't forget that we're human. And there's also the human-centric skills that we need to focus on. And this is taking us back. Sinead, your introduction was perfect. You must have known exactly what I was going to be talking about, because Sinead spoke about when our profession emerged, the heart of our profession was about people and understanding people's behaviour and helping them move through change and accept change and make it land more easily. And when we look at the human-centric skills, when I talk about those skills, and they've been some of my most popular blogs, by the way, so that's usually an indicator of what the hot topics are at the moment, are things like human-centered design or design thinking and really understanding hardwired human behaviour. So let's have a closer look at that. So here's a disclaimer at the moment. This talk is not about agile, but the human-centric skills play very, very closely to the skills we need in the agile ways of working as well. So you can't tick a lot of boxes when you get really good at this. So the thing about human-centered change, and if we use design thinking as the operating principles and integrating those into our change practice moving forward, is it will legitimise and uncover a conversation about what people are thinking and how they're feeling. And very few conventional change approaches at the moment are able to do that. There's a very strong focus on what people are doing now with the as-is analysis, and a very strong focus on what we want people to do in the future. And very rarely do we actually unpack those feelings and thoughts. And that's very powerful to do early in the stages as well. So when you do a design thinking process, for example, and integrate that into your change practice, you're uncovering early as well. Co-creation starts very, very early. You're still defining the problem rather than working on a solution. And that's a mindset shift for a lot of people. Design thinking is totally a different mindset. Okay, so we're coming to the 3 key takeaways because they were really just thought provokers for your sessions later this afternoon. So here's the 3 key takeaways that go with those 3 points, and that is embrace and model the new ways of working. Okay, we need to leave a really good footprint, I think, when we go out to our clients. And it's not just understanding the what, it's really being able to do the how and model those. The second one is own your capability. Own your capability and work on a personal learning network. And when I say a personal learning network, I mean a personal learning plan that sits outside formal classroom learning. It's about your networks and how you're learning organically outside a formal face-to-face situation. And learn and apply human-centred approaches so you can drive those early conversations around how people are feeling and what they're thinking. And overall, I think as change practitioners in the new world and right now, we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our peers and each other in this room, we owe it to our industry, and we also owe it to our clients to really show up to work and be the best that we can be and demonstrate that we can add value and be those people who are adopting the new ways of working with that value that we can add, not just in the future, in the now as well.